Hello, and welcome to the Cothagian Federation, which we successfully formed in the last episode. Now, what's going on with my stuff? Okay, that's fine. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Okay. Yep, I've already read that. Okay. Well, here we are. We didn't want to be here. We aren't power-hungry tyrants. We just wanted basic prosperity for all our comrades. But now we're the national government of Cothagian, and there's a lot of work to be done. Crossing the aisle. The two zebras that had asked to see him here were just like day and night. One of them a battle-scarred beast of a stallion, and the other a slender mare who seemed ready for a ball, more than anything else. Zeirutid looked from one to the other, eyebrow raised high as they both bowed to him. Zebrica, at your service, the mare introduced herself, the general following suit and introduced himself as Azargo. It is a terrible shame that we must meet under these circumstances, but the fact that we are able to strengthen our conviction that you are the best path forward to our homeland. Wow, you are being formal. Zebrica told them with a roll of his eyes, waving to a couple of chairs nearby. Sit. Oh, that's actually me. Okay. Sit down and calm down. I'm not looking to play fancy ballroom here. From what I've heard, you led the harmonist, right? He asked before turning to them. As for you, you worked with the constitutionalist. The two nodded in response to his question. Swell, he sat down himself. Now, how about you tell me what you want to achieve for Carthage, and we'll go from there. I did tell you he was a matter of fact. I did tell you he was a matter-of-fact sort of person, remarked to them. Pleasantries are never a waste of time, responded Airly with a smile. About an hour later, Zeirutid bid the two farewell, after having invited them to further meetings of the National Unity Front. So there really were zebras in Carthage who wanted to work towards a better future. He loved being right. Oh, cool. Are they a general? Yeah, they're an infantry expert general. And a bleeding heart and an engineer. I mean, I love just infantry generals in general, but the indecisive revolution. That zebra could drive me to drink, sighed as he sank down in the chair far enough that only his head was visible over the edge of the table. We're this close, and it's like I can reach out and touch it, but he keeps faltering at that very last step. Carthage is poised to be the Zebrican Stalingrad, a beacon for the proletariat everywhere, but he just won't do it. Sadly, he is no Caramel Marx. Zala made himself comfortable in the second of the three chairs as he responded, shrugging. I would have thought that the Civil War would have shaken the cobwebs out of his head, but he remains ever committed. Not enough patricians executed for your likings, Zeirutid asked Zala dryly as he sat down before beginning to deal them into a game of cards. I don't know why you're surprised. Has he ever been one to go back on his principles? As long as the peasantry are given their land and the common zebra a say in their government, he's happy. And as much as we'd all like to think otherwise, he's a reformist at heart, not a revolutionary. So how long before this blows up in our face then? Zeirutid asked as he scrapped himself up into a sitting position. We already have patrons in the Unity Front, and while they bow and flutter their eyelashes and sing his praises in sweet voices, what will happen when? What's it to you? Zala's face had gotten a wide smile on it, and Zeirutid glared suspiciously at him. Oh, nothing. Just noticing how well the description fits on one patrician in particular. You wouldn't be dreaming of cooping Lady Jezebel, Zala, eh? His grin went from ear to ear, and 2 seconds later, Jazzlid cards hit him straight in the teeth. Jazzlid already on his way over the table to punch him, and Zeirutid frantically throwing himself up to pull him back. I will knock your teeth out. That's a little rude. Also, that's a little rude of you as well. I mean, come on, man. Civil War? Rude much. You gotta admit, Civil War, pretty rude. The National Unity Front. What was that expression he had heard once? To fall flank first into success. Zeirutid thought to himself that it fit the situation almost too well as he stood on the floor of the Senate, looking around himself with a sardonic smile. So where to now, then, you wonder? He told his gatherer advisors. They'd been on his case about what he planned to do now all day. Azid, Zala, and Zeirutid all had been asking. I guess we'll just institute a dictatorship, can start purging the constitutionalists, mass execute the partitions, rob the nation blind, set fire to the jungles, and then build a giant diamond statue of myself, and furl my wings and fly into space. His bizarre comment of the others taken aback. And it was Zeirutid that spoke up after a while. What are you, a Pegasus now? No, and I'm not a dictator either. Zeirutid sighed. Of all that he had said, that was what they had reacted to. I never wanted this. No zebra should have wanted this. We were fighting for land reform, and yet it had to go this far before they let go. He shook his head. Idiots, all of them. What should be our next move, then, Azad? Asked Jeremish, looked up at the ceiling. Same as in Koltva. We'll offer an open hoof and a chance to work together to rebuild. Any who are willing to abandon the idea of fighting us and would rather work with us to fix this mess of a country can join in. This country has been stomped on Earth in these last decades, and I don't see how another set of stomps will accomplish anything but more misery. Now we rebuild and try to make something greater out of the ruins we were left with. A revolution might have been an accident, but the intent was not. And we are now a harmonist. Oh, no. Yeah, politics will change. Harmonists will become the ruling party. And he'll be the leader. But he'll also become the leader of the non-aligned party. And he's now the leader of 3 different parties. One person joins the Federation. Somebody stops being a political advisor. Somebody becomes a political advisor. And, ooh, weekly influence change plus 0.2. Huh. Okay, pragmatists. Yeah. So we are now a harmonic socialist. I see. So we actually have 3 Well, the National Unity Front is united in its goals of a free and prosperous Carthage. The devil is always in the details. While there will never be a full confrontation between the factions, they battle for influence to enact policies how they wish. Favoring one faction indiscriminately is an option, but there are many merits to balancing the influence of all 3, allowing flexibility in how we design our politics. Our movement is split between 3 factions. Each has a certain amount of political influence, which represents the influence of said factions on policy making and the day-to-day running of the government. There are no consequences for picking and choosing favorites within the system, as each faction will give different negative and positive bonuses, depending on your event choices, focuses, and decisions. However, it should be noted that taking harsh turns in policy making will negatively affect our stability. So right now we're evenly 30, 40, and 30, with a 10% in supremacist. Well, I say we should probably start with getting rid of this famine, because our economy is bad. I mean, sure, there's some important stuff over here. Some getting rid of, gotta get rid of the bleeding months. Where is the bleeding months? Ah, okay. So I get rid of the bleeding months through this path. But I think I'm gonna put tackling the famine as my top priority. The disruption of civil authority across Carthage has broken the delicate balance established by the Cothagian oligarchs. The food supply has collapsed, and we are struggling to supply for the very citizens we revolted for. We must address this issue before anything else. Our comrades are counting on us. Sure, Watertowns. You can have it. Suspicions, justified and not. Does it ever bother you that most of the zebras surrounding Ozid seem to be Cothagian turncoats? Zanazel Zala asked Zeirutid as they walked down the hallway. In response, the latter only raised an eyebrow. No shade thrown on our dear Ozid, of course, but isn't it odd how that faction of his seems to have been made up almost exclusively as those who we fought? I just wonder what that says. Why is Ozid the one whom the Old Order finds it so easy to associate with? So, Zelthar Zarka is the supremacist still, huh? Associate. Is there something peculiar about him? 1 second, Zanazil. Zerazesh reached over, grabbing Zala's hat and pulling it down over his ears hard. A choked grunt came from the general as he began to pull at the hat, trying to get it up over his head. You'd have loved to purge them, I know, but you'll just have to deal with the fact that you have to work with the people you don't like. That's been the deal from the start. It's not a matter of liking, Zala finished, got the hat over his eyes and rubbed the bridge of his nose. It's a matter of security. When an entire faction is made up of turncoats, can you trust them? You'll let snakes closer to your heart, and do you trust they won't act up? I trust you, don't I? Zeirutid smirked. Besides, if they try anything, Ozid will keep them in line. And don't give me your line on the inherent opposition of the worker and the elite. I know what you're going to say, and we're still going to make this work together. I never meant to be here, none of us did, and grasping for power by wiping away the opposition won't help. I'm not improving a whole socialist revolution. Zala sighed at the comment and nodded. Indeed, alas, we should have gotten to you sooner. Okay. Oh, I should set up actual things other than just fixing railway. Whoops. Oh well. Oh well. Next, let's rebuild the academy. Surprising correspondence. So what was that letter about? Zamo Jalazid asked his compatriot as they came out of the meeting. You were like a cannonball out of the meeting when it came. It wasn't a love letter, was it? Xanadid rolled his eyes in response, ignoring Zaladid's impudent wink. No, it wasn't, though I suppose she's quite the looker. I'm actually corresponding with Bikuin and with the recent... What? The yell from Zadadid, shy away from Jazalid, his hoof flying to cover his now ringing ears. Jazalid, meanwhile, looked like his eyes were about to pop up. Are you serious? From the impudent to incredulous, Jazalid's mouth hung wide open. Yes? Zadadid said, rubbing his ear, and I just wrote to him, describing what we're doing here, and asked what his experience fighting for the revolution. What were you thinking? He would be too high and mighty to reply? No, it's Mikhail Bikelgunen. Along with Steel Stallion, he's one of the most important creatures that have lived in the last century. He defined much of what we're fighting to accomplish. I'm sorry, I'm babbling. Just if you're able, then let him know I hold him in the highest regard, and he's an inspiration. Jazalid nodded stiffly to underscore his words, and Zadadid's eyes twinkled with amusement. And should I also ask if he'd be willing to correspond with the colleague as well? Yes, mildly, watching how Jazalid's eyes almost popped out of their socket. No. Or will actually, yes, please. Rebuild the academy. Education is the core of development. Every zebra who learns can go on to improve society in their own way. Every idea produced by our schools and higher education institutions can go on to make Zebrica a better place. Thus, we need to rebuild our labor force of educators, because if we can continue learning, we can do anything. Alright, so even though you're getting above 10%, that doesn't go. The dinner party. The dinner was going well, and Jazab Zella enjoyed herself immensely. Ozid really was a zebra to enjoy life, and he had been showing off his appetite along with his sincere charm all evening. Her friends had taken to him as well, and at the moment he was regaining them with the stories of their exploits in Koltva. It really was as good a dinner as she could have hoped for, and yet the best was to come. Her friends were incurrent schemers, and she kept them away from her work with the NUF, as she didn't trust them to play nice. Yet after a relentless request, she had chosen to invite Ozid over, and they were currently doing their best to buy his affection with the best food and wine available. Thank you, all of you, Ozid said jovially as he rose up to speak. This has been a wonderful evening, but I really must say a few words. Her friends all applauded him, and Ozid raised his glass high. You will get nothing. I will not aid you in any efforts, and your attempt to ingratiate yourself with me will not become secret. Thank you. He emptied his glass with one swig, and it was first when he put it down that one of the others managed to speak up. How dare you? The zebra began, Ozid giving up a hearty belly laugh in response. You do realize we could have hanged you, all right? With those words, he brought the already indignant mood down to an absolute zero. We are victorious, and we had only received violence and oppression from Cothage despite our modest demands. Your lives could have been forfeit if we had chosen to, but we included your good friends, Jazab Zella. Understand that the time has come for honest discussion, not scheming and plotting, so please don't try this again. Come to us honestly and openly, and then we can talk. Until then, though, please kiss my flank, and my apologies for ruining this dinner, Jazab Zella. He bowed his head to Jazab Zella, turning around and left the room. Behind, he left a stunned collection of zebras, and Jazab Bella that grinned like an idiot. Told you it wouldn't work. Amazing. That was amazing. Yay. No more illiteracy. Now, out of these two, so I can increase or decrease the pragma. I kind of need to decide which path I'm going on, because I'm okay, let's see. The evolutionaries are the furthest political left faction of the Congress, containing movements ranging from broad socialist to hardcore Marxist-Stalinists. They view themselves as true evolutionaries compared to the other members of the Congress. Their members are generally either urban workers, intellectuals, or rural communists. The orthodox faction of the Congress is made up of those who most closely align with Zeirutid himself. Their policies all evolved from his core belief in the decentralized local rule and populist democracy. They do their very best to represent the citizens of Zeirutid as best they can, and generally view them as servants of the people. Their members are drawn from many backgrounds, and they cannot be accurately labeled. The pragmatist faction of the Congress represents those who put results above any ideological commitment. This could be because they simply are political in one way or another, or because they believe in ideas that have fallen out of favor. This faction houses the most representatives of the old Cothagian order, and therefore can draw the ire of other members of the NUF. But Zeirutid knows they are loyal and still truly care about the nation as a whole. They see themselves as true technocrats and are often economists, former patrons, or military officers. Let's see, what are the effects of these two? So, plus 15%, minus 20 weekly stability. Ouch. Extra research speed? Man, that weekly stability hurts, man. What? Ouch. Or technocratic guidance, which grants political power gain minus 15%, weekly stability plus 0.5, and research speed minus 15%, and increase of influence. Well, let's see. The scientific clique may have been a tool of the Zeirutid regime, but they certainly knew how to run things. By following their guidance, we can rebuild our education system in an orderly, tested manner, and ensure that our students know how to respect their teachers and will be taught the proper way. It is no wonder that the Zeirutid regime lasted so long when every Zonican was either kept illiterate or given an education based on hierarchy or control. Our schools must be places of freedom and questioning, with students choosing what subjects to pursue and punishments severely restricted. Yeah, let's go with the principles of democratic education. I mean, we got to, right? The face of the revolution. You shouldn't be so camera shy, you know? Zamazella told Zeirutid as they all walked out of the meeting. I know you're a humble zebra, but you're still the one that led Koltva to its current position. Surely you can see why at least a little more visibility would be a good thing. Sure, that it's not so your friends can have pictures of me on their bedstands. Zeirutid clucked in an attempt to throw Zamazella off her game, yet she only smiled. I can think of a few, but believe me, if that was the goal, I would have asked dear Zamo here. She put a hoof on Zadalid's shoulder, making him freeze up. After all, she indicated his appearance. He knows what he is aiming for, and I must say, you do it quite well. Zadalid didn't reply, only blinking in confusion at her as he stood shocked still. Oh, come on, Zamo, don't play innocent. You do not look this dashing by accident. This takes effort, and the result is quite splendid. No, that's just how he dresses, Zamo offered, leaving Jazabella to give Jazalid another look. Oh, you're just dangerous, she grinned at him. Still proves my point, though. If my friends would have anyone on their bedstands, it'd be this dashing rogue. She gave Jazalid a wink as she passed him by with a sway of her flank, the fragrance of her perfume lingering. Sid looked after her, then to Jazalid, who still couldn't move. You know, I think she noticed. Alright. I don't like that stability, but, you know, that's a big research speed increase, right? It basically cancels out the industrializing society. That's good. Like, look at that. Back to basics. The chef might have gone to university due to his parents forcing him, and he might have found it all tedious to a fault, but that was then. Now is now, and he had concluded that boredom was underrated. Boredom meant you weren't getting shot at, and after last months, he gladly settled for that. It was just a shame that the damn Coltvins had to have screwed this up as well. Gathered in the main lecture hall, he felt his head spin as he watched the students up at the front talking to the professor in a way that would have gotten him thrown out before the war. We've also been discussing assignments, one of the students said as she read from a list, and we want to request that we stop getting assignments on Friday, meant to be done on Monday. We're okay with waiting a bit longer for feedback if we can, just have the whole week and not the weekend. Oh, now you're just being lazy, Professor Zalmakar scoffed. The weekend is quite enough for regular assignments, and raise your hooves if you ever have been cramming until past midnight on a Sunday, the student that had brought up the issue said, raising her hoof and being accompanied by nearly the entire lecture hall. I raised my hand. The chef hesitated before raising his hoof as well. Professor Zamilkar looked at as if he had swallowed a whole lemon, peel and all. Very well, is Monday to next Monday acceptable? The chef could only stare at the scene. The professor had actually obliged. How about that? I think I might like Coltvin education after all. Amazing. Alright, I'm gonna... Oh. Important but tedious. Well, there's no two ways about it, as Gargo aside as he put down the papers. Infrastructure maintenance isn't exciting. There's no grand battles or heroic trials of strength. Just tedious routine checks and repairs. You're telling me, as a cart nodded, I've had way too much experience arguing with people that you can't just budget for building something. The word maintenance might as well be Nubisian to some people. You can't rally zebras with a grand speech to repair a bridge. Or maybe you could, Azurgo scratched his cheek as he traded a look with Azelcart. The two of them had been sitting in this room for hours, and they were both really tired. Chuckling, he cleared his throat and looked up at the ceiling before beginning to speak. Comrades, brothers and sisters, look around you. Look at this monument to greatness, this great bridge our fathers and mothers built us. It is their legacy handed down to us, and yet it is crumbling. Time, that eternal enemy, has worn away at it, but it has not won yet. Are we not our parents' children? Are we not carrying the lessons and the values that they passed down to us? In all we do, we strive to be their equals, and should we not keep this place intact as well? Shall we not, like them, hold together the roads and the bridges upon which our children will travel, maintain the great wheels of prosperity that keep poverty and starvation from their door? Shall we not, as one nation, keep this great work intact, in the name of our mothers and fathers, and for our children to work? At the end, he was standing up, one hoof raised, as he roared at the top of his lungs. It was in that moment that the door opened, and Ozid peered inside to see Azard go halfway up the table, hoof raised to the sky and holding a notebook in it, almost like a sword. "What's going on in here?" he asked Azargo, slowly getting down from the table. "Infrastructure maintenance planning." Amazing. Amazing. I love that. Well, let me make sure there's nothing else I want to get more. I can get weekly influence. Well, is it time? I could start working on influence. Alright. Well, here we go. Bam. Now you know what I'm doing. Salvage the industrial sector. The Civil War has decimated Cothagian industry, with many factory workers either being conscripted or rioting against their bosses, and shelling reducing some factories to rubble. Repairing the damaged factories and restarting production in the abandoned ones will allow us to restart our heavy industry, and then direct that industry towards solving the present crisis. A difference of philosophy. If anything was going to turn Azarcart into an alcoholic, it would be the Coltvins. He was overjoyed that Zeirutid, for all his quite brave ideas, still had the wherewithal to listen to experts, and yet the groups clustered around him were varying levels of misguided, idealistic, or just insane. He was happy there was at least one group that he could cooperate with to not have Carthage too wholly to pot. Yet of those, these one was a militarist of the worst stripe, and the other was... But sure, that's definitely not going to backfire at all. Seriously, whose flank did you kiss to get any jobs at all? The other was Zerishat, who was honestly amazed that someone could be this mean-spirited without choking on their own bile. Thoroughly undiplomatic, pathologically uninterested in understanding any creature else, and spiteful to the point that she rejected even her brother's affection despite the advantages it would give her. What a piece of work. I do not know what to tell you. Insisting on oaths of loyalty will scare off those industrialists who are skilled enough to have options, and the single best indicator of a stable society will be economic progress. For that, we will need the most talented, and they won't be receptive when they can find employment elsewhere without the oaths of loyalty. The meanies don't want me to do whatever I want, Zarshat drawled. If they want to get a piece of the pie, they'll either kiss the ring, or they can sod off to trade sand and Zeratina, or something. I know you want to weasel your old friends back in, but that's not happening. With all above, he really wanted to tell her she'd never escape her brother's shadow, and she'd die in it like the worm she was, but he instead took a deep breath before noticing Manzano's eyes twinkling. This amuses you, doesn't it? Manzano only nodded in response, and as a jart massaged his temple. I hate being the sole sane zebra. And I think this will be a good place to stop for this episode. If you liked like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button. And as always, peace.